Behave yourself, Jaws. In part 1 of this tutorial, I walked you through each aspect of a gem faceting diagram, but I didn't go into detail about several areas. I will cover these areas with additional information that you should understand in order to cut a gemstone using a gem faceting design. The areas that I will cover in this, the final part of the tutorial, are how to use the online database facetdiagrams.org, more information on index gears beyond the 96 index gear, a little more information on symmetry, and a little more discussion about the hot topic of the girdle of a gemstone. In part 1, I explained that a great place to go find gem faceting diagrams is the online database at facetdiagrams.org. This online database houses thousands of designs and continues to grow as gem cutters add new designs to the database all the time. And before you start your search of the database in facetdiagrams.org, make sure that you click the option that says Only Show Open Diagrams with GemCAD ASC files and cutting instructions. This is because some gem designers have shared some of the information on a gem cutting design they created, but for reasons of their own, they decided not to share the actual cutting instructions, the angles of the protractor, and the index gear teeth. You can't cut a gem without this information, so clicking the option to Only Show Open Diagrams shows every diagram in the search that has complete gem cutting instructions from gem designers who have opted to make their designs public domain. Next, I want to dig a little deeper into the index gears for cutting gemstones. In part 1 of our tutorial, our gem faceting diagram was for a 96 gear index. The 96 gear is the most common index used for most gem designs, and the 96 index gear comes standard with the Ultratech and I believe all other gem cutting machines when you purchase one. However, there are other index gears available, and a lot of designs call for an index gear other than the 96. For example, Ultratech offers 32, 64, 72, 77, 80, 84, 96 of course, and the 120. And here's a photo of the Ultratech 64, 72, and 80 index gears. As you can see, the index gear simply have an evenly distributed number of indexes or teeth going around in a complete 360-degree circle. So the next question becomes, do you need to invest in all these optional index gears? No, you don't. You can if you want. The GemCAD software of Robert Strickland actually has a feature to convert angles from one index to another. In some cases, it will make little or no difference. In other cases, it will make slightly noticeable difference in the gemstone. For example, in comparing a 32 and 96 index, the top tooth of the 36 is exactly the same part of the circle as the 96 tooth in a 96 index. Going around the circle 90 degrees at a time, the teeth in the 32 index would be 8, 16, 24, and 32. This would perfectly match the 24, 48, 72, and 96 teeth in the 96 index gear. So converting a diagram that says to use a 36 or possibly even a 64 gear index to your 96 gear index using the GemCAD software will have minimal or no effect on your diagram at all. Another reason you may not want to invest in the other gears is because if you pull up all the designs and diagrams available at facetdiagrams.org and sort the diagrams by the index gear, you will see that about 2/3 call for a 96 gear index. Well, last time I looked, there's about 4,779 diagrams in the database. So well over 3,100 of the 4,700 diagrams in the database were created for the 96 gear index. The next most popular index gear used for designs in facetdiagrams.org is the 64 gear index, which again can be pretty easily converted to 96 gear index using the GemCAD software. The 64 gear index accounts for about 18%, less than 2 in 10 of all the diagrams in the database. Finally, the 86 index, the third most popular used, accounts for less than 7% of the existing diagrams in the database. Just to finish it off, the 120 index gear accounts for only 3.5% of all designs, the 72 index less than 3%, the 32 index less than 2%, the 84 index less than 1%, and the 77 gear index of the 4,779 gem designs that have been put into facetdiagrams.org database. Only 3 designs total called for using a 77 gear index, so I don't think that would be a prudent investment unless you just want to make sure you have all the available index gears. And if you do want to have them all, great. Or if you want to design your own gem designs using the 77 gear index, great. Now, reasons you may want to buy at least one index gear in addition to the 96 gear that comes with your machine is that some competitions for gem cutting, where you compete against other cutters to see who cut the best, most accurate cut, and especially at advanced level competitions, they sometimes call for an index that is not the 96 index. So if you really want to buy another index, you may consider the 64 gear index or the 80 gear index, as these are sometimes used in competitions. I'd recommend you just wait, and if you want to compete in the gem cutting competition, and if the design for that competition for the year is, say, a 64 and 80 gear index, you could then buy the index that you need. In this example from the 2019 Single Stone Competition Master Level at the United States Fasteners Guild competition, the stone, called the 5-Star Cut, was designed by Robert Strickland. Yes, that's the same Robert Strickland who designed the GemCAD software. And as you can see, to follow his design, you will need the 80 index gear. Again, the GemCAD software does have a procedure where you can transfer from one index to another. But if you tried to use a 96 index gear with instructions for an 80 index gear, you would have a mess. Look at the instructions for cutting the pavilion. If you followed these instructions using a 96 index gear, I can't even imagine what the stone would look like. You would finish your first cut using the 43-degree index by cutting with the 78 index tooth. In the 96 index gear, if you were using that, the 72 index tooth is about 3/4 of the way around the circle. So the 78 index tooth would just be a little more than 3/4 away around your stone. In the index gear, the 78 is just 2 teeth away from the top of the circle, completing the circle. So you could just imagine it's not going to work using a 96 index on an 80 index instructions. The next topic that I touched on in part 1 was that of symmetry. The diagram we used in part 1 called for 8-fold mirror image symmetry, as you recall. And as I explained in part 1, you don't really need to understand symmetry to be able to facet a gemstone using a gem faceting diagram. You do need to understand symmetry to design gem faceting cuts. So our example in part 1 had 8-fold symmetry. So if you want to learn to design your own gem cutting diagrams, you'll need to understand symmetry and fold like 8-fold and mirror symmetry. If you were cutting a trillion design or a triangle, you would need 3 symmetry or 3-fold design. A gemstone cut into a pentagon will need a 5 symmetry or 5-fold. So another way to think of symmetry is rotational angle, but I don't want to confuse anyone here. You can just ignore my whole talk about symmetry and it won't affect your ability to use a diagram to cut a gemstone at all. Now let me show you an example of a stone that has no mirror and 1-fold symmetry. This gem cutting design by another famous gem cut designer, Norman Steele, was published in April of 1975. I believe in the Seattle Fasteners Guild newsletter, but I may be mistaken. Anyway, as you can see, almost each facet has its own unique protractor degree setting for each index gear tooth. This may help you understand symmetry. You can download Robert Strickland's GemCAD and run it on a 30-day free trial. Just experiment with the symmetry in the software and the program. It will show you the different effect that your changes make. This is one example where a picture is worth 1,000 words. Also, Robert includes a manual with his GemCAD software online, and in his manual, Robert tries to explain symmetry. But I think the best way to really grasp symmetry would be to get a copy of GemCAD and find one of Robert's YouTube videos on creating a gem faceting design and follow along with the YouTube video as you also practice with the software. And if anyone out there has a better, quicker, easier to understand example of how to understand symmetry, sound off in the comments. Finally, let's talk a little bit more about the girdle of the gemstone, as this continues to be a topic of debate among gem cutters. As I explained in part 1, G1 is the generally accepted method to show the girdle facets on a gem cutting diagram. The girdle that I mentioned earlier is the part of the gemstone that separates the top, or the crown of the stone, from the bottom, or the pavilion of the stone. And there's a lot of debate among gem cutters on how thick the girdle should be. Certainly if the girdle is too thin, or if there's no girdle, you'll have a knife edge effect. And the problem with a too thin of a girdle is that the stone may chip when your jeweler is setting it in the mounting, in the jewelry mounting. There's no issue with the girdle being too thick, except at some point it just looks strange when it's too large. And it kind of makes sense to me that if the girdle is way too thick, at some point it's going to affect the way light bounces back through the stone. But I don't know if anyone's conducted any scientific tests out there or not. If anybody out there knows the answer, please let us know in the comment. My personal opinion is that you should try to cut the girdle at 0.3 millimeters, but many cutters say 0.5 millimeters is the optimal girdle. I'm fine with 0.3 to 0.5. Anything in between or anything very, very close. Some people even make it a percentage of the width of the stone. Just be aware that if you're entering the stone in a gem cutting competition, the instructions are going to clearly state what the acceptable width of the girdle is. So just do what the instructions or the rules ask for. I'd be happy to hear the views of others on girdle thickness and also whether you polish your girdle or not. A lot of cutters don't even polish the girdle. I always polish the girdle. So please let's hear your comments. There is some debate among gem cutters on if you need to polish the girdle at all. I always polish the girdle, but many other gem cutters do not. It's up to you to decide for you. But as I mentioned earlier, as a trick of the trade, many fasteners polish the girdle facets at slightly less than 90 degrees. This is because in this set of instructions, for example, you cut and polish the girdle with the pavilion, bottom half of the stone. This is common. So when you're ready to polish the girdle, you still have the complete top half of the stone or the crown as uncut. So the width of the girdle at that time is the total length of the stone from your pavilion, adding the girdle and the crown. So there's really no need to polish the entire upper half of the stone at this point, because when you cut the crown, almost all of this area that you spent time polishing will be cut away as you make the crown. So if you change the angle to 89.5 degrees or anything less than 90 degrees, you will only be polishing a few millimeters of the stone above the pavilion. And again, you only need a 0.3 or 0.5 millimeters of polish on your girdle. Since a normal girdle width is somewhere around 0.3 to 0.5 millimeters, which by coincidence is about the width of the fingernail on an average person's smallest finger, you can see that the girdle width is small. You will spend a lot of time and effort polishing the entire upper half of the stone at 90 degrees, only to later grind almost all of that out when you cut the crown or upper half of the gemstone. Or you can polish a small part that will become the girdle at little less than 90 degrees, or you can do like many cutters do and not bother polish the girdle at all. Or you could polish the girdle last, but if it's a round stone or oval, you'd run the risk of cutting through the meat points in the pavilion or bottom half of your stone, where you work so hard to have one row of facets just touch the girdle. If you were cutting a square or a rectangle design, you could probably have no problem with just polishing the girdle last. This concludes part 2 of this tutorial. I hope you have found the information useful. If you have additional information or key points on any of the areas that I've discussed, please post them in the comment section. Happy faceting!